Right, so hello and welcome back to Books and Things, and welcome to my TBR for the Cosyathon. If you don't know, the Cosyathon is a read-along hosted by Sylvia Kay. I'll link her channel down below, and this time it is running from the 1st of February to the 15th of February and is loosely themed around St Valentine's Day. The first Cosyathon was back in October and I sort of half took part and really enjoyed it, and the idea of the Cosyathon is basically to read books, but also to do it in a cozy, enjoyable way. So some of the challenges are to do with the books you read, but some of the challenges are to do with the way you read, which I think is a really lovely idea for a readathon, especially for someone like me where I do nearly all of my reading on the train on my commute to work, which is not a very cozy way to read. So I will link down below Sylvia Kay's announcement video and also another video which she made, which me and a couple of other booktubers were part of, where we recommended some books which might be good to read for a Valentine's Day themed Cosyathon. And I thought what I'd do today is go through the challenges and talk about the books that I'm going to be reading in Cosyathon and also sort of in February as a whole. So to begin with, there are 8 challenges which are to do with the way you read, so I'll just let you know what they are and then I'll talk about whether or not I'll be doing them all. I will probably be doing some of them, but probably not all of them. Number 1, coffee or tea date, to read in a coffee shop or tea room. Number 2, chocolate date, to read while eating or drinking chocolate. Number 3, cake shop date, to read while eating cake or cookies. Number 4, movie date, to read while eating popcorn. Number 5, walk date, take a walk while listening to an audiobook. Number 6, romantic date, visit a romantic place and read there. Number 7, stay at home date, to read wrapped in a blanket. And number 8, Cinderella date, to read until midnight. I will probably do most of these. I will probably not do the read while eating popcorn thing because I'm not especially fond of popcorn, but I can definitely read while eating chocolate and read while eating cake. Both of them sound very nice. And I will probably try as well to go to a coffee shop at some point in the next 2 weeks and find myself there with a book. I really enjoy reading in cafes, but it's not something I do so much anymore. I used to do it much more sort of on my masters, where me and a friend used to go and read and write in cafes quite a lot, partly because both our houses were really cold, but not something I do so much anymore, but would like to, I think, make an effort to do it more. I can definitely take a walk while listening to an audiobook. In fact, this is part of my commute and something I do every day on the way to work. I take the train to work, that takes about half an hour, and then I have a 20-minute walk from the station to my work, so this is something I do without even trying. I am not sure I am planning on visiting any romantic places in the next 2 weeks, although actually Nick and I are going to Stratford for the weekend and we'll probably do some reading while we're there, so maybe that counts, I suppose. Reading with a blanket is something I can probably try and do. I actually have a new blanket, which is very exciting. It's blue and cozy, so I haven't been doing much reading with it because, like I said, I tend to do most of my reading on the train, but I will definitely try and make time for more cozy reading in the next few weeks. And also reading until midnight is something I can probably attempt to do, and something I haven't done for ages actually. On to the book challenges. The first one is to read a book with red or pink on the cover. Turns out I have quite a lot of books with red on the cover, so I actually have 3 for this challenge. All of these 3 are books that I really want to try and get to this month, and they all have red on the cover. So the first one, which is also my TBR jar pick for the month, is this, which is The Thrilling Adventures of Lovelace and Babbage, the mostly true story of the first computer. This is a graphic novel or sort of comic collection about Ada Lovelace and Charles Babbage, who were 2 real historical figures in the 19th century. This was lent to me by a friend a month or 2 ago and I still haven't got to it, and it was, as I said, my TBR jar pick for the month, and I'm really excited to get to this. And then also have The Power by Naomi Alderman, which was also lent to me and also by the same friend, so another one I should try and get to. And I'm sort of both looking forward to and feeling slightly apprehensive about reading The Power. I've heard a lot about it, a lot of mixed things, and to be honest, quite a lot of bad things, and I don't think I'm going to love this, but I think I'm going to find it interesting, and it's one of those books I quite want to read so I can have an opinion on it, in a way. You probably know the premise by now. Women overnight get this weird power in their hands where they can shoot electricity, which means that they are suddenly physically stronger than men, which changes gender dynamics in society. I'm looking forward to reading this one. I think it will be interesting, and I think it should be a fairly quick read. I'm just not sure I'll love it, but maybe that's okay. And then the other book with red on that I have, which I am hoping to start in February, but by no means finish in February, is War and Peace. This will probably be my blanket book. I'm gonna try and start reading a few chapters a night when I get home from work, in order to ensure that I actually read this, because it's kind of too ginormous to take on my commute, and I really do want to read this. I know I've mentioned this on my channel before, but I started this last summer, got 100 pages in, and just didn't carry on. I was really enjoying it, it's just that it's huge and I didn't take it anywhere, and I mostly read on trains, but I am determined to read it because I loved the television adaptation last year, and I loved the beginning, and I love Anna Karenina a lot, and I'm sure I love this. It's just so huge that it's slightly daunting, and also there's a lot of footnotes because a lot of it's in French. Very excited to start it, though I'm not intending on finishing finishing it till like May, but we'll see how it goes. I think me and Carolyn from Carolyn's Reading Rambles are gonna buddy read this together. So the next one is to read a book with a sweet title. I think the sweetest title I can find, because I don't have very many, because most of the books I read are miserable, is this, which is Alice Munro's The Love of a Good Woman, which I think probably counts as a sweet title. This is a short story collection. I don't know that much about it, except that Alice Munro has been massively, massively, massively recommended to me. I didn't actually hear her talked about that much on BookTube, but when I did my creative writing master's course, she was like everyone's favourite short story writer. Maybe she's one of those writers that a lot of writers really, really love. So I bought this years ago at that time when she'd been so highly recommended to me, and I just haven't got around to picking it up yet. Partly, I think, because the text is quite small, which is a really silly, silly reason not to read a short story collection, but most of the short story collections I read are about half the size with much bigger text. But I think I am really going to enjoy this because I've heard so many good things, and even if I don't, I'd like to start it and give it a try. So yeah, definitely going to try to get to this one in the next couple of days. The next challenge is to read a book about love or a relationship, and for this I think I might reread a Jane Austen because I really, really love Jane Austen, and really in the mood to reread Jane Austen at the moment. I've just been reading Jane Austen The Secret Radical by Helena Kelly, which I didn't love, but I found really interesting and really put me in the mood to reread Jane Austen. Also, I haven't read any Jane Austen for about 3 years, which is a long time, and I keep on finding authors that I think I like more than Jane Austen, and then I think that that's probably because I haven't read Jane Austen for a while. So I'm either going to read Pride and Prejudice or Persuasion. I know that me and Marissa from Blatantly Bookish were talking about rereading one of these later on in the year together, so possibly if we decide which one we're going to reread later, I'll reread the other one. I don't know. I love these two Jane Austens very, very much, and I feel like it should have been so long since I read a Jane Austen, so probably going to be picking up one of these in the next few weeks. The next challenge is to watch a Disney adaptation of a fairy tale of your choice and then read a retelling of it. I don't think I'm going to do this because the Disney fairy tale ones don't tend to be my favourites, and I don't think I own any fairy tale retellings. But I thought, as I don't own any fairy tale retellings, I might try and read another retelling of something that is not a fairy tale, because Nellie Dean by Alison Case has been sitting on my shelf for ages, and I was really eager to read it, and then also really apprehensive about reading it, but I think maybe the time has come. This Nellie Dean by Alison Case is a sort of retelling of Wuthering Heights. If you don't know, Nellie Dean is the narrator of Wuthering Heights, but not one of the main characters, and it isn't about her, and I believe this is about her. And I believe from the blurb that it might be about her relationship with Hindley Earnshaw, which will be really, really interesting, because one of the things I quite like in Wuthering Heights is there's a lot of like doubling in it, and one of the things that's quite interesting is the doubling of sort of Nellie Dean and Hindley Earnshaw with Catherine and Heathcliff, and a sort of implication that's never really developed that Nellie might feel a little bit towards Hindley as Heathcliff does towards Catherine. It's not fully developed, but I think there is definitely an implication there, and I believe that that's what Alison Case is sort of picking up on in this book, though I'm not certain. So on the one hand, I think that I might hate it because I love Wuthering Heights so much, and this could be very annoying. On the other hand, I might absolutely adore it. I never really know how I feel about retellings of classics, so I'm sort of really looking forward to this, and as it's a retelling of Wuthering Heights, and I think about Nellie's relationship with Hindley, it might be quite nice and romantic, if only with a capital R for St Valentine's Day. So yeah, I think I'm gonna read this and hope for the best. Next challenge is to buddy read a book with someone. As I said, me and Carolyn from Carolyn's Reading Rambles will be buddy reading War and Peace, although we're not going to finish it by any means in February, so that will count for my buddy read. Although another book that I'm probably going to read in February, again probably not going to finish in the next few weeks, but will be starting and carrying on, is The Way We Live Now by Anthony Trollope, which I am possibly buddy reading with Marissa from Blatantly Bookish and Carolyn from Carolyn's Reading Rambles, depending on whether or not they decide to read it. I love this book so much. I've read it before. It's one of my favourite books ever, but I haven't read it since I was 18, and I'm so excited to reread it. This will be my third reading. It is a wonderful, wonderful book. In many ways reminds me of Charles Dickens' Our Mutual Friend. A man comes to London with a lot of money, but no reputation. No one really knows where he's come from, how he's got his money. He comes with his wife and his daughter, and society flocks to him. Next challenge is to read with a friend or a loved one. So Nick and I listen to quite a lot of audiobooks together. We're currently listening to Northern Lights by Philip Pullman, which is the first in his Dark Materials series. Both of us have read it a couple of times before. This is my third reading of Northern Lights, and Nick tells me that it's his 14th, so he's read them a lot. He really likes his Dark Materials. So we've been rereading Northern Lights in audiobook at the moment, and we will definitely continue to listen to it together in the next few weeks as well. Finally, the last challenge is shopping date. Buy yourself a book present. So I am going to buy a book in the next few weeks. I know I'm on a book buying ban, but I do need a new copy of Bleak House because there will be a Dickens Victorian style serialised read-along of Bleak House starting quite soon. There will be an announcement video up for that very soon, but I need to get my hands on a new copy because the copy I have currently is beautiful and has no margins, and I want a copy I can write on, so I'm going to get myself a Penguin Classics edition, which is a little bit tougher and also has all the notes in the back, which I really, really valued when reading Our Mutual Friend. And hopefully the copy of Bleak House, like my copy of Our Mutual Friend, will have sort of Dickens's original chapter plans, which are really, really interesting. So that'll be my bookish present. There is actually one other book that I'm really hoping to get to in February, so I thought I would mention that here as well, and that is The Secret History by Donna Tartt, which I am slightly terrified of reading. Recently, Angelica Kofa and Emma from Reading by My Shelf decided it would be fun for some of the booktubers who live in London or sort of the surrounding areas to get together and form an actual book club where we meet up in real life and talk about books, which I think is a really, really lovely idea, and I'm really, really keen to go along. And the first book is A Secret History by Donna Tartt, and I sort of hate Donna Tartt. At least I have only read The Goldfinch, and I really quite hated The Goldfinch. There are many things that I really didn't like about The Goldfinch, and I'm not going to go into it here, but if you're interested, I did a written review on my blog at the time, because I used to have a blog then in which I was quite scathing, so I'll link that down below. But to keep it brief, I thought it was long-winded, unbelievable, and needed a good cut, and also that it was almost Dickensian, but it wasn't, and therefore I was really angry because it should have been a book that I liked, and I liked some elements of it, but the other things I didn't like I disliked so vehemently, and it's the whole thing. I also made the terrible mistake of listening to it on audiobook, and it's 37 hours, and the main character Theo is so irritating, and by the 36th hour I was so cross. But I have also heard brilliant, brilliant things about The Secret History, and I'm going to read it in physical form because my mum has a copy that I have borrowed. So I'm hoping I might like it more than The Goldfinch, and maybe I had a bad experience with The Goldfinch by listening to it on audiobook, by sort of having different expectations, by the fact that it could have and almost should have been a book that I loved in terms of some elements of it, and then kind of let me down even more. Maybe I will have a better experience with The Secret History. So I have hopes for The Secret History, but I also have concerns, and we will see how it goes. Those are the books that I'm hoping to read in the Cosyathon and sort of February in general. Not all that cosy for a lot of them, as you can see. I feel like War and Peace is not a cosy book, and I feel like The Secret History is not a cosy book. Despite that, I'm really looking forward to reading all of these books and to taking part in the Cosyathon and hoping to have some more cozy reading and not just reading on the train all the time. I will let you know at the end of the month how I get on with the Cosyathon and the rest of my February reads, and I'll be back very soon with another bookish video. Both of us have read it a couple of times before. Well, this is my third reading. I think it's probably like Nick's 10th or something. He's read them a lot of times.
14th.
14th! I can't show that, I jumped so hugely.